Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 256th episode of the Simple Sophisticate. Today we are going on a travel adventure. Well, I guess I should say more of we're going to talk about a travel adventure I just recently had to San Francisco, and I am so looking forward to sharing with you what I discovered, what I would recommend, and everything in between. But before I get to that, this week's Petit Plaisir is a film that just hit theaters, and after having gone and seen it, I highly recommend it. And I'll share with you exactly why, because it's multifaceted. Now, back to today's topic. We're going to spend 72 hours in San Francisco. We'll talk about where to eat, where to sleep, how to get about, and then tailor it to you. So let's get right into this. I want to begin with a quote, of which there are many, about the love for San Francisco. This one actually comes from Duke Ellington, and I think it really states well what I and my mother experienced on our travels this last week. Quote, "San Francisco is one of the great cultural plateaus of the world, one of the really urbane communities in the United States, one of the truly cosmopolitan places, and for many, many years, it always has had a warm welcome for human beings from all over the world." Now, in 2002, I began my career in teaching. My first job was teaching 9th grade English in a small town at the bottom of South Lake Tahoe in northern Nevada. Now, prior to this, I had gone to San Francisco 2 previous times, but with no understanding of what the city was about and only for a flash moment. And again, this was pre-Google Maps. I had no clue what or where to go and see. And even in 2002, there was no Google Maps or easy way to navigate and know where to go. Now, in 2002, on occasion, maybe 2 or 3 times, I would take the 4-hour drive on long weekends to go to that city. And I found, for each experience, I found a boutique hotel that's no longer open. But at the time, it was this lovely boutique hotel near Union Square. And I would walk and I would drive the hills from time to time because I would take my car into the city. And let me just say, I became even more proficient with a clutch than ever before. And I also gave my calves an exquisite workout walking everywhere, but also had the opportunity because of one weekend, my mentor in teaching visited me there, and she kind of gave me a bit of a tour of different parts of the city. We enjoyed a delicious brunch at the Empress Hotel, which I highly recommend you go to if you have the opportunity. They still serve that, and they also have high tea on the weekends as well. And I also had drinks at the top of the Mark, which overlooks the city if the fog is not engulfing the city, which in and of itself is a great view and unique view as well. But for each of my visits, because I did not have the accessibility of what we now have of Google Maps, and because it was pre-tech sector in the sense of there wasn't this city of Twitter and Pinterest and Facebook, and I know that's primarily in Silicon Valley, but you have the energy and you have the environment of the tech sector in San Fran. I can't tell you how many times we saw a self-driving car going about the city. And at first we weren't sure if it was a self-driving car or if it was just a Google car driving around trying to map the city. But we found out later from one of our Uber drivers that, yep, those are Google cars and they are all over. Those are self-driving cars and they're all over and they're just working the glitches out. But because of that, in 2002, I really didn't know that much about the city or didn't have the opportunity, since I was by myself, to explore it in a way that I couldn't do on my feet or that was out of my comfort zone. And I was pretty brave considering what I did and where I went. But I'm able to travel in a more informed way and a more reliable way now with all the different means of transportation. Now, fast forward 16 years, and I finally had the opportunity to return to San Francisco. This happened just last week. Even since before moving to Bend, which was 4 years ago, returning to San Fran has been on my places to visit. After all, it is in many ways the West Coast New York City. Understandably, each city, New York and San Fran, are uniquely their own. I mean, clearly unique unto themselves. But having visited Los Angeles, Seattle, and many, many times Portland, Oregon, San Francisco isn't quite like any other West Coast urban destination. In fact, I have to agree with Cecil Beaton, who wrote, "San Francisco is perhaps the most European of all American cities." Now, New Orleans is also a city that I remember visiting a handful of years ago and thinking, this is a city that is just, it doesn't even feel, there's just a unique aspect to this city. It does feel like there's this infusion of French culture and Spanish culture, and it all comes together, and you don't really feel like you're in America, and for a lot of great reasons, but at the same thing, you also do feel that you're in America for all the right reasons, and it's an interesting conglomeration of all those things. However, San Francisco, what I loved about it, and do love about it, and why I do find it to be more European-esque than other cities, is that the climate is temperate. You don't have extreme temperatures in different seasons. You don't have extreme cold, extreme heat, although there was a really hot day 2 weeks ago in San Fran that was just out of the blue. But for the most part, it's pretty temperate, mild, and you have awesome access to food. You are near the water, which I love. And there's just some different aspects to the city that does remind me of Europe. And in fact, Twiggy actually stated, "I'm just mad for San Francisco. It is like London and Paris stacked on top of each other." And I can kind of see what she's getting at. Now, I don't know when she made that quote. She probably made that a couple decades ago. But if she did it more recently, I can see that with regards to the busyness of the tech environment that's there in the city now, but also the leisure and the appreciation for good food and walkability, even though you're getting a good workout and you're walking on all those hills, similar to that of Paris. And you can really get around that city fairly well, which I love. Now I'm getting ahead of myself, gushing about San Francisco. And so I'd like to share with you all what we experienced in a mere 72 hours this past week, offer up some recommendations, and perhaps encourage you to visit or return to the Paris of the West. Now, this is an old term, Paris of the West or Paris of the Pacific, that was used primarily in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, largely because of the 3 waves of French immigrants arriving in San Francisco, beginning in 1849 with the gold rush, then again in 1852 to 53, when Louis Napoleon Bonaparte III offered a national lottery. It was all random, but 3,000 tickets, so free trips to California, were given to intellectual opponents of his. And they took them and they came over to San Francisco. And then the 3rd wave of what turned out to be many women and children came to San Francisco for whatever reason. I'm not sure exactly, so my historians can tell me more, to bring some women to the area, because the city at that time, this is still the mid-19th century, was 90% men. Now, in short order, by 1852, there was 36,000 people living in San Francisco, and 6,000 of them were French. So we already have a very strong French culture becoming part of San Francisco at the beginning of the city. So there's no wonder I love this city. And many of you love the city so much, right? Anyway, today's episode is organized into 3 fundamental parts for any trip to any country or city to be most successful. And what I mean by that is when we think about where we want to go visit, there are 3 things that, for me, I always want to make sure I have clearly set in my mind and taken care of or tended to or know about for sure before I get there. Now, I look at it as a 3-legged stool or a tripod foundation for traveling with ease. The first thing, and these are not necessarily in any order, they just all 3 need to be there, is knowing how to get around to wherever you want to go so you can enjoy the city. And I think that was predominantly the problem with my trip when 16 some odd years ago, is that I didn't really know how to get around to where I wanted to go. I could get around to some places, but not to every place, nor did I know where to go. So transportation and making sure it can fit your budget. The second thing is knowing that you have a comfortable and safe place to sleep at night, so accommodations. And the third is knowing you will be well fed to satisfy your appetite, so food and where to eat. Now that's going to vary depending on who we are, what we love, and what our budget is. So those three things, once they are figured out, once we've done our research prior to arriving, we can relax. Once these three decisions are made or reserved and settled, I feel that I can loosen up a bit on the itinerary and then also relax and look forward to making the trip. And that enables me and whomever I'm with to kind of go about each day based on our energy levels, based on what we discover along the way. From maybe we get a recommendation from someone who lives there, or maybe we hear from a friend last minute about where we should go. So once those three things are done, I can kind of let the reins be a little bit looser. So let's begin this 72-hour visit to San Francisco. The good news is you don't have to make your plans too far in advance, because I heard from a lot of readers on Instagram that you were thinking about traveling there soon or already had some plans, but you hadn't finalized things, or were reminded that you needed to get back to the city. So here's the good news. We started making our plans in April, and we just took our trip last week, so the middle of June. So it took about 2 months for everything to be solidified, to get a decent price on different things, and to get ready to go. And once we got our plane tickets, once we got the hotel reserved, then I started to scout around and see which restaurants did I want to go and make reservations at, because this was going to be a food trip for me, as I shared in this last Friday's weekly newsletter. Now, for many of the finer restaurants that I wanted to go visit, the good news was they only took reservations 1 month out. So I was a little ahead of that. We had reserved 2 months out our trip. So I just had to put on my calendar, call such and such restaurant on this date and time to get your table. So those things were set and ready to go and eventually taken care of before we hopped on the plane. So let's get started talking about when to visit San Francisco. I want to begin with a quote by Mark Twain. He states, "The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco." Now, depending on the weather you hope to experience when you're there, as one of our Uber drivers who has lived in the city for decades shared with us, don't come in June, July, and August and expect traditional summer temperatures. Nope. While there is the rare, extremely warm day, as I mentioned earlier, happened a couple of weeks ago, the average high during the summer, June, July, and August, is low 70s, high 60s, and expect the fog to roll in and out throughout the day. And if you're by the bay, which we were, where our hotel was at, the wind will rip through in the afternoon. It's not a super cold wind, but it's definitely a wind that it'll take your dress and it'll take your hair and your shopping bag if you're not careful. Now, again, it's all a matter of preference when you want to go, and obviously schedules, but just be aware of that. If you are looking for the idyllic weather, so that beautiful, warm summer weather that you're looking for, our driver recommended, based on the quote we just shared from Mr. Twain, that you visit in September and October. Yep. So I took note of that. And he also shared that the rain usually abates between April and October, so it won't pick up heavily again until November. Now, if you are someone who has lived in the Bay Area or lives there or has traveled there frequently, I would love for you to either confirm or correct this information. But it was interesting to note all these things because it really is its own unique climate. Also, when we traveled, we did so during the work week, so from a Tuesday to a Thursday. And the opportunity to do this was perfect for the pace that I prefer. So you have the everyday life going on, the business going about its daily, 9 to 5s or whatnot. You do still have tourism, obviously, in San Francisco. It's a tourist destination, a worldwide or international destination. We heard so many different languages. I think we heard Dutch and German, and I might have heard some French, but I definitely heard a bunch of different languages on the trolley and down by the wharf, which was a lot of fun. The evenings during the workday were very quiet on the street, and even though we had a street side window on our hotel, it was still really quiet at night, which was made for a peaceful sleep. And then the traffic for getting to the airport wasn't that bad. We knew when the rush hours were, so we tried to avoid them if we could, but even though we didn't at times, it wasn't something we couldn't navigate. So That's just something to keep in mind if you're able to do that, depending on the energy you want. Work week was a great time to visit for us. Now, when you do come, whenever you come, bring layers. One day we were both kissed by the sunshine. It was a beautiful mid 70-degree day. But at the same time, in that evening, we both needed a jacket. My mom packed her lightweight cashmere scarf, which was perfect, and she used it on various occasions and was just exactly the temperature she wanted. And we also saw many other people wearing scarves, which is something that I forgot. Of all things for me to forget, I forget a scarf. I won't forget that again, but it's definitely a city in which to wear a scarf, even in the summer. So that's a little thought about when to visit, what to come prepared with so that you can enjoy it wherever you're going and touring. Now, how to get about the city once you arrive. So transportation. We actually tried out 4 different things in that short amount of time. And partly I did that so I could talk about it with you guys and share with you what I discovered. The first thing that I do recommend, and all of these are things I would recommend, but I'll share with you information about them based on what you want, is their BART, their mass transportation system. Now, if you arrive in the San Francisco airport, they have a drop-off or pickup right there at the airport. And so BART, which stands for Bay Area Rapid Transit, is very affordable and it's very dependable. So we took it from the airport with our luggage with great ease all the way into the heart of the city, into the Embarcadero, which is about a 45-minute ride. It was helpful to take it right from the airport because that's basically the start of the line. It is the start of the line. So it's an empty train. So you're going to get on, you're going to have your luggage. You won't have to fight for a seat or a place to put your luggage because it's completely cleared out. You just hop on and a new one will arrive in 7 to 8 minutes. So if you don't want to get on one, you're not ready yet, or someone hasn't arrived there because they're still waiting for their luggage, don't worry. Another one will come in 7 minutes. Now, that's only $2.50 a person. So we spent $5 getting from the airport to the Embarcadero and then hopped into an Uber for a 5 or 10-minute ride to our Fisherman Wharf's hotel, which was about an $11 cab ride or Uber ride, actually. Now, that would have been a $50 to $45 Uber ride from the airport to our hotel. So we saved quite a bit of money doing that. I know that's not for everybody, but it's definitely doable. You're going to get a straight shot in and you won't have to worry about the traffic. We did arrive in the morning during morning rush hour on a Tuesday, and it definitely got packed halfway into our ride. But we had our spot. We had our luggage where we were, and we got off no problem. Now, of course, you have the trolley and the cable cars in San Francisco, which if you follow me on Instagram, were a lot of fun to capture and very easy to ride and probably our go-to transportation. There are 3 manually operated trolley cars, cable cars in San Fran, and the price is very affordable. It is $2.75 an adult for 2 hours and $1.35 for senior. So for each time we got on, within a 2-hour period, we were paying fewer than $5. Now you can get a pass. You don't have to pay in cash. You can't pay in credit card on the trolley. You do have to pay in cash, and they don't give you change. So just make sure that you give them the exact change and cash that you want to give them. Otherwise, you're going to be out a couple to 25, 50 cents, whatever. Or you can buy a pass online. We enjoyed this because it did take us to just about every place that we wanted to go and was actually very close to our hotel, which made it very easy. And it was clean. These trolleys were so clean. We rode it at all sorts of different times of day, and they were very clean. And the drivers were also very helpful, and they were helping a lot of tourists, but there were locals that were hopping on as well. But it is primarily tourists that are getting on. They are the part of the mass transit system, so you can use your passes on those as well as on the buses. Speaking of buses, we did happen to ride a bus one evening as it was serving the same line as the trolley car we had arrived on and wanted to take back home after dinner. And the transportation map makes it easy to see where to get on and where they stop and you would want to get off. And again, you just use the same pass that you use for your trolley if it's within the 2-hour period. Makes it very simple. And there are many, many lines for their buses. The next mode of transportation, which is something we use quite frequently if our trolley didn't get us to where we wanted to go and we didn't want to walk because it was too far, were Uber or Lyfts. Now, there are taxis there too. and everyone's going to do what they feel most comfortable with based on their budget. But the reason I chose Uber, which I've done in the past, is because I knew what my fare was up front. I didn't have to worry about the meter. And Uber is the app that I typically use, but Lyft is available as well in the city. We took it about 6 different times, some short trips, some long. And we did take it across the Bay Bridge. We took it to to a park on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. We took it to the Richmond neighborhood, and we took it back to the airport. There are a lot of different options for prices for fares. You could do Uber X, Uber Pool, Uber Comfort, and just choose what works for your budget. But in every single situation, for me and my mom, they would arrive in 10 minutes or fewer. The car was clean. The driver was friendly if we chose to talk to them, and we arrived swiftly and accurately at our destination. So that was the other mode of transportation that we used. All right. Now, I'm going to take a quick break. We still have a lot more to talk about. We're going to talk about where to stay. We're going to talk about where to eat and a few other recommendations that you may want to check out. Today's episode of The Simple Sophisticate is sponsored by Trust and Will, estate planning made easy. Trustandwill.com is estate planning simplified. Get online, and in 10 minutes, starting at $39, you can gain peace of mind protecting your assets and family. Trust and Will offers guardianships, wills, and trusts in all 50 states. Having had the opportunity to go through the process and create my own will online, I can attest it is simple, it is easy, and it is something that will only take you 10 minutes if you have all the information already situated in front of you that you want to write down, the names of the people that you want to be beneficiaries, the charities you want to donate money to, things like that. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, you have the opportunity to take 10% off of the $39 cost by going to trustandwill.com/simple or entering promo code SIMPLE at trustandwill.com. Again, as a Simple Sophisticate listener, you have the opportunity to get 10% off by going to trustandwill.com/simple or entering the promo code SIMPLE at trustandwill.com. It's easy to procrastinate about finishing our will, but thanks to trustandwill.com, you can finish in 10 minutes completely online, and they have people available to instantly answer your questions, of which I took advantage of as I had questions about living wills, which they also provide. Seriously, it's so easy. Do it for you, do it for your family, do it for your loved ones. Guardianships start at $39, wills $69, and trust $399. That's willsandtrust.com/simple and use the promo code SIMPLE to get 10% off. The Simple Sophisticate podcast is also sponsored by Simple Habit. Simple Habit offers hundreds of meditations available for free and thousands with their premium package, with over 100 experts offering meditations to help with specific problems or issues in your life, such as parenting or anxiety or sleep or just helping you relax. It's not just teaching you to meditate for the sake of meditation or that it's good for you, but helping you tailor meditation to your life. And it's convenient. There are short meditations that can be consumed in 5 minutes, but also longer ones if you choose. If you don't like sitting in the lotus position, you don't have to. You can be listening to your meditation while you go on a walk, while you're doing the dishes, while you're doing what you do throughout your day. With over 65,000 5-star reviews and ranked as the #1 meditation keyword in the iOS App Store, Simple Habit is the meditation app for you to try out. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, you have the opportunity to receive 30% off their premium subscription for the first 50 listeners. Simply go to simplehabit.com/simple to take advantage of this opportunity. Again, that's 30% off their premium subscription for the first 50 listeners. Simply go to simplehabit.com/simple. And now for the gardeners in our audience. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by Plant Package. Plant Package is perfect for people interested in gardening who get overwhelmed by all the plant options at garden centers. Also, people who are short on time, because each plant package takes just about 20 minutes to assemble, and then you get to enjoy the benefits of what you're going to grow. Now, I had the opportunity to receive their May package, which was called their Amazelberry, and it included 2 strawberry plants and 2 basil plants, which are out in my garden. And And it is something where each month you get something different. So for example, in March, they sent out the Lucky Pot of Gold, which included 2 lemon coral plants and 2 4-leaf clover plants. In February, they call it the Flowers and Candy package, in which they sent out 2 Gabbera daisies and 2 variations of mint chocolate ganache. With Plant Package, the prep work of gardening is done for you. Plant Package selects durable, seasonable plants, an appropriate and stylish container, sends just the right amount of soil and plant food, and includes instructions for assembly and plant care. Right now, Plant Package is offering listeners of the Simple Sophisticate a free first box. Just visit plantpackage.com/simple, choose a delivery option, then use promo code SIMPLE at checkout to receive your first box free. Again, go to plantpackage.com/simple, choose your delivery option, and then use promo code SIMPLE to receive your first free box from Plant Package. All right, now let's talk about the place that we stayed, and I highly recommend. Although I don't have a lot of places to recommend, I do recommend the place we stayed at highly, and I'll share with you the reasons I liked it and why we liked it, because if that suits what you're looking for, you will not be disappointed. There are a lot of different places to stay in San Francisco. Of course, there's a lot of Airbnbs as well, Airbnbs and vacation rentals. This is the heart of Airbnb. This is where they were founded in this area. So you're going to find a ton of those as well. Based on what you're looking for, you can find it. Now, we chose to stay at the Argonaut Hotel, which is right on the Fisherman's Wharf. I could not have been happier. And here are the reasons why we liked it. It'll obviously depend on your budget. It will also depend on what you enjoy, and what brings you comfort, and what makes you feel safe. Now, I liked this location. I liked being close to the water. For as much as this is a city, at night I want to be able to relax. I want it to be something that's quiet as possible in a city, but I also just simply love being close to the water. So this particular hotel is located in North Beach along the Fisherman's Wharf. It is ideally located for easy access to common sites such as the Fisherman's Wharf, Ghirardelli Square, a primary trolley line that will take you throughout the city. One of those places is the Ferry Building. It takes you directly to the front of the Ferry Building. Lombard Street is about 3 blocks up from the hotel. The famed part of Lombard Street, the zigzags. And you also have Little Italy right in your backyard. So the location is prime if you're going there to explore as a tourist. Comfort. This is a very nice hotel. The beds are plush, the rooms are large, and you can reserve a room that looks out onto the Fisherman's Wharf, which we were able to do. It's also located in a historical building, a beautiful red brick building that they have refurbished. So you're gonna easily find it, and it's only 2-3 stories high. I think it says 4 stories, but it doesn't feel that high at all. And it is the only hotel right there on Fisherman's Wharf, so you're not getting a lot of other hotels in that area. It's also, as I mentioned, very quiet. Now, granted, we stayed there during the weeknight, so a work week, so I don't know what it would be like on the weekends, but it's not on a busy street. You're not going to have a lot of through traffic. If traffic is coming down there, it's the taxis that drop off people because you have a lot of tourists close by that are going to all the different destinations on the wharf. You have some fishermen. But it's not a street that people are going to get to somewhere else. They are come to that location. So at night, it was actually very quiet, which I so appreciated. And in fact, we actually woke up to seagulls and seals, which was ideal. So just depends on what you prefer. And then, of course, the sea air. And the service was impeccable. We actually arrived early on our first day, way before check-in, which is 3 o'clock. We arrived at 8:30 in the morning. Now, we let them know this was going to happen, and they would have happily stored our luggage, but we were lucky because we checked in and there was a room available. We got a free upgrade, which allowed us to look out over the wharf. We did not have to pay for it, and that was so nice. And because we also had to leave late, our flight was in the evening, they would have stored our luggage as well. So the service was just wonderful. Now, that's just one place, and I know as I explore more, I'll share more, but I can highly recommend the Argonaut Hotel. And this was not a sponsored post at all. None of this trip was sponsored, by the way. All of the decisions and places we went were determined by my curiosity of the city of San Francisco. So the Argonaut Hotel, where I would recommend you staying if you want a place of luxury and comfort. Now, for my reason of going, it was all about the food. And as one Uber driver who has lived in the city for 22 years told us, San Francisco has always had a strong food culture. Boasting about 5,000 restaurants, whatever type of cuisine you prefer, you will be able to find it. While he couldn't guarantee it would always be delicious at every destination, he did note that you can find many wonderful places throughout the city and Bay Area, so just keep exploring. I'm going to share with you 4 places that I highly recommend. And if you follow me on Instagram, you already know the places I'm going to talk about here. Let me start with the bakery. Tartine was scrumptious. So if you are looking for French bakery, buttery goodness, croissants, pain au chocolat, if you are looking for those classics, almond croissant, and then just great bread, of course, look no further than Tartine. Their original bakery, which was started about 15 years ago, is just a Tartine bakery, just like a traditional bakery. Go in, order, buy your coffee, your tea, whatever, sit down, da-da-da-da. Just walk 10 blocks, short blocks actually, 10 blocks away to their Tartine manufactory, and that is where you get to sit down for breakfast and lunch, and that's exactly what we did. Actually, we did both. We went to the bakery, didn't realize the manufactory was not where we were, the Google Maps wasn't taking us to manufactory, completely my fault. I actually got a piece or a slice of their quiche to go. And then we got up and we walked the 10 blocks to the manufactory for our breakfast. And I'm so glad we did. I'll provide pictures of all of this on today's show notes. So simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 256. So Tartine. Then we have the Pearl 6101 restaurant. This is a small restaurant located in the Richmond neighborhood. And it's only been around for about a year. But it opens for breakfast and their day menu from 8 to 2, so breakfast and lunch. Then it opens for dinner at 5 and runs till 10. And then on the weekends, they have a brunch. Again, I have pictures on my Instagram and on the blog and on the show notes. Check them out. Classic but delicious seasonal produce. Food is yummy. And that particular morning, I was just wanting eggs and I was wanting avocado toast. And this is our last breakfast there. And I just wanted good satiating food. And it completely hit on all points. And the decor is classic, simple, and inviting. And it's right on the corner of 25th in California. You can't miss it. It's a fantastic little restaurant. In fact, our driver said, "They're open already?" I said, "Yeah, it's at 8 o'clock. Sure enough, they were. We were like the second person in there. And the locals were slowly stopping by. It was wonderful. The third restaurant that I recommend, we went here for our second dinner on Wednesday night, our second dinner of the trip, which was Wednesday night, Boulette Larder and Bouli Bar. Now, this is located in the Ferry Building, and it's on the right-hand corner next to Sur la Table. And this is a 2-part restaurant. So in the front, depending on how you look at it, so the dining room is closest to the wharf, to the bay, is Boulette Larder. And the one that's closest to the walking part of the Ferry Building, so inside, is the Bouli Bar. Now, I didn't know this part, and I don't think Resi understood this either, because on Resi, when I made reservations, it asked, which dining area would you like? And of course, I chose the one that overlooked the bay. Well, that one's not open for dinner, but Resi didn't seem to understand that, or I didn't understand what Resi was trying to tell me. And I made reservations thinking we were going to be sitting in Boulette Larder's dining room, which I'll show a picture of, and you'll understand why I wanted to eat in there. That place only serves breakfast and lunch, and in the evening, it's closed for private dinners, large gatherings of people, not for the public. But for lunch and breakfast, it's open to the public. For lunch and dinner, Bouli Bar is open, and I would recommend making reservations. It's not huge, but it's delicious food. Again, seasonal, locally sourced. We had the most wonderful king salmon slow-baked on a bed of millet with roasted vegetables and a vinaigrette, a sparkling vinaigrette, and it was just mouth-watering. And then they served a pistachio cake, and then we were just completely a fan. So again, that one I would definitely make a reservation at. I made a reservation for that one, and it seemed to still have places available, but not probably last minute. Last but not least is Chez Panisse. Yep, Alice Waters' famed restaurant in Berkeley, California, which is right across the Bay Bridge next to Oakland. It took us maybe a 45-minute cab ride to get across, and we were going across in rush hour on a Tuesday. But we had 3 people in the car, so we were able to be in the carpool lane. It was a dream of an experience, of which I will share in detail on Wednesday of this week on the blog. So do stop by, and I'll break it all down with so many pictures and conversation insights from the waiters and things like that. Reservations are taken only 1 month in advance on the day you wish to dine. So, for example, we were dining on the 18th, so you need to call on May 18th, the month before the date you want to be there, and call when their hours of operation begin. You will want to call and not do it online, because online you have to wait 3 days longer. They do a 4-week prior to, whereas on the phone you can do a full month out, which gives you a few more days. So I would highly recommend doing the call. And every night's going to be a different menu. Every single night is a different menu. Mondays you get a 3-course meal. Tuesdays you get a 5 or 6-course meal, depending on what you want to have. We had a 6-course with an added cheese course. The weekend meals are a little more elaborate. Wednesdays and Thursdays are similar to Tuesdays, and then they're closed on Sundays. So just be aware of when they're closed, and also what type and how many courses you're going to have. But it's a fixed price for the courses, and then you add on your wine and any additional courses you want, for example, the cheese course. But again, if this tells you anything, since you get to keep your menu, which I did, I asked the waiter if he wouldn't mind signing my menu. It sounds cheesy, I know, but it was that awesome. And I am in such admiration of this restaurant and how it was established and what it's about that I just had to ask for a signature. I don't know why. It's just something that popped into my brain. And anyway, come stop by the blog on Wednesday and you'll find out and see so much more of what this iconic restaurant, which began in 1971 and is still running on the same premise with some additions, but that main dining area is of the same premise. This is, yes, where Samin Nosrat was a cook. This is where David Leibovitz was a pastry chef, the place where so many other talented chefs shared their expertise and their food chops with the guests at Chez Panisse. So those are the 4 restaurants I highly recommend, or bakeries. And then once you know where you're eating, once you know how to get around, once you have your accommodations, you then get to tailor everything else to you. And each of us is going to come to any city, but if we're going to San Francisco, we're going to come with something in mind as to why we're going and what we want to experience. And as I shared in last weekend's newsletter with subscribers, my visit was all about the food in preparation for the Simply Luxurious Kitchen's upcoming 2nd season. And the city did not disappoint. My appetite was fully satiated and it exceeded my expectations. However, there were a few other places we also saw besides eating. We did go to other places, and I'll share with you those now with regards to different places that are worth going, depending on what you're looking for. So if you want a beautiful view and pictures of the Golden Gate Bridge, while there is the Golden Gate Bridge State Park, there is also Baker's Beach, which is on the other side, not the other side of the bay, but on the other side of the bridge, close to the Presidio. And there were not a lot of tourists. It was primarily locals and a lot of fishermen. Thoroughly enjoyed that. You got sand. You have a parking lot if you are driving a car that gives you quick and easy access to the beach. But you do have wonderful views of the bridge. That's Baker's Beach. Also, if you are a shopper for designer clothes but don't want to pay designer prices, and you are someone like myself that loves consignment, you will want to go visit Goodbyes. And Goodbyes is in the Presidio neighborhood. It's on Sacramento Street, and they actually have 2 shops on the street, and they have wonderful designer options at reasonable prices, and you will thoroughly enjoy your visit. They've been around for 28 years, and some of their customers have been visiting for 20 plus years, as we learned as we were chatting with the lady behind the counter, and one of the customers that lived in the neighborhood. So stop by Goodbyes. That is spelt just as you would say hello and goodbye, but with the connotation implied. The other place, if you are someone who wants to see an infinite amount of flowers and just, you probably won't buy any because you have to have a badge to buy them. But if you just want to be around Mother Nature, that's going to be dispersed to all sorts of events and venues and shops and markets, visit the San Francisco Flower Market. And as you saw on my Instagram feed, we went there and were just overwhelmed in such an amazing way of all the different types of flowers. It was just nice to be around flowers. I mean, it may sound silly to some people, but it was actually a comfort. It actually opens up to buyers at 6 a.m., but to the public at 10 a.m. So you can go wander through. And then if you're someone who likes to luxuriate in the splendid scent of sourdough bread, visit Boudin at the Wharf. So this is the famed sourdough bread company that has made the claim of bringing sourdough or making sourdough starter in San Francisco by a French immigrant in the mid-19th century. And of course, there's a museum there and there's a shop there, and you get to see how they make it right in front of your eyes, as I shared on my Instagram feed, the video. And you get to taste it while you're there. It is delicious. Of course, there's so many different bakeries in San Francisco, but learning the history of sourdough in San Fran is kind of fun. So that's Boudin, Boudin at the Wharf. And there are a lot of different shops around the city, but the one at the Wharf is the one where you have the museum and you can see them making the bread. And then, of course, is the Ferry Building. The Ferry Building was refurbished in 2003 or thereabouts. And that's the one that has all the shops on the inside, mainly food or something that's tied to food. And that's also where Boulette Larder and Bully Bar is located. And it's right there by where the ferries dock and transportation for those getting across the bay takes place. Inside, you will find all the shops open every day. But on the outside, on Tuesday and Thursday, beginning at 10 o'clock, is their farmers market. They're smaller on Tuesday and Thursday. And then they have their big farmers market on Saturday. So depending on when you're there, be sure to stop by. Also within the Ferry Building is a place we went and had a late lunch or late breakfast, early lunch at Frog's Hollow Bakery. And again, like many of the restaurants, they offer local, seasonal food. And it was scrumptious. So definitely a place to check out. And the trolley line goes right in front of it, so you cannot miss it. Last but not least, another place that we saw was Ghirardelli Square, which was just around the corner from our hotel. And of course, they have Ghirardelli's chocolate shops inside, but there are many other shops, boutiques, and restaurants. And the view of the bay is lovely. And the park in front, as it is situated next to the hotel that we stayed at, was someplace that I enjoyed just visiting and relaxing after a long day of exploring. So I'll have links to all of these places, not only the last few places that I recommended, but also the hotel, the restaurants, all the different transportation systems on the show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 256. Now, with the 72-hour trip nearing an end, we decided to hop into an Uber to take us to the airport, as we did not want to have to worry about lugging our luggage onto the BART amongst the crowds, because it was going to be rush hour in the afternoon. Although it would have been something we could have done, but we were just exhausted. So we opted to come in on the BART but leave on an Uber. And it took us about 30 minutes to get from our hotel, which was on Fisherman's Wharf, to the airport. Not a bad trip at all. And we were at the airport ready to board our flight at 6 o'clock to head back to bed. Now, I knew we had soaked up every minute of our trip, seeing and exploring and eating. We also were able to take a nap each day, which for me was absolutely necessary and appreciated. But even with the naps, I slept deeply and quite more at length this past weekend since I've been home than I have in a while. So it did take it out of me, but in the best of ways. What a pleasure this trip was, truly. And I am thankful it is only a 90-minute flight away. I can't believe that. Needless to say, with even more recommendations from readers as I was going about the trip and places I do look so forward to visiting again, I cannot wait to return. So in the words of Walter Cronkite, leaving San Francisco is like saying goodbye to an old sweetheart. You want to linger as long as possible. And don't forget to stop by the blog later this week to see the detailed post on my experience at Chez Panisse. Now, I'll be right back with this week's Petit Plaisir. this week's Petit Plaisir is a new film that just came out on June 7th called Late Night. And it stars Emma Thompson, Dame Emma Thompson, and Mindy Kaling. Mindy Kaling wrote, co-produced, and also stars in this film. And it is worth going to go see. I had the opportunity to go this past weekend, and as I shared on Instagram, I look forward to seeing this film again. Alongside Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling, you're also going to have John Lithgow, who plays Emma Thompson's husband in the movie, as well as Reed Scott, who you may remember from Veep. Now, part of the reason I love watching this film, and I encourage people to go watch it, is because it has a female protagonist that's multidimensional, that's successful in her career, but is also flawed, but also comes out positively at the end. And then you have it being written and also being co-produced by women, and you may think, well, doesn't matter. It does matter in so many different ways that we may not even be aware of. If you've watched the film Misrepresentation, you know that the numbers of women representation and multidimensional roles of women in film is very, very small. In fact, I've included a link to the statistics of women in Hollywood, and it is gradually improving because of the awareness we now have of who's behind the scenes and who's in front of it. If we see them given the opportunity to play multidimensional roles, people of diversity in age, ethnicity, life experience, and see varied representation of women. When we support films that put women at the lead, films that are written by women, we're able to see diverse storylines and not one-dimensional props that women tend to be in many films that are out there. Think a lot of the action films. Think a lot of the different films out there. Now, this is gradually starting to change with awareness, which is definitely applaudable. But if you look at the numbers, which I share a link to, it has a long ways to go. And if we have women on screen who represent different ways of living for women. They don't have to be a certain size all the time. They don't have to be a certain age all the time. They don't have to have a certain life path all the time. It doesn't have to always be a happy love story ending all the time, but it can still be seen as a happy ending. For those of us that are unconsciously influenced by films, which is a lot of us, then we start to realize that there are many different paths for all of us, and we become more aware and hopefully more supportive of that. So I'll provide a link to the statistics of women in Hollywood. But this film is worth going to see for just that reason. So here is the trailer for Late Night, starring Emma Thompson with Mindy Kaling.
She was the first female late-night talk show host on a major network, winning 43 Emmy Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, Catherine Newberry.
Catherine, do you think women are funny?
Funny is funny.
As long as you're white male and from an elite college, like your writing staff.
We need to hire a woman.
Would a gay guy work?
No.
So you have no experience in comedy?
I'm obsessed with comedy. I do a little stand-up.
Where?
If you have a problem, ask the chemist. She'll always have the solution.
You're hired. If it doesn't work out, which you probably won't, you'll be gone.
Are you okay?
I'm so happy. I feel sick.
I came to tell you this year is your last.
What?
Who are you?
I'm a new writer.
The new female writer.
Yeah, I can see that, Brad. Think about why the show is bad.
She's coming back! Don't push me.
And come up with ways to fix it.
The headline of my analysis is complacency.
I'll tell you what doesn't work. A newcomer coming in and giving me her assessment of my comic persona.
I will not be marginalized because no one here looks like me.
She's not trying to silence your strong female woman of color spirit. Hashtag me too, blah, blah, blah. You're a new writer with no experience. Write something.
Okay.
The show hasn't been good for years.
Why didn't you say something?
I thought you knew and didn't care.
You keep on asking me the same question.
I have some jokes for the monologue.
Tom Cruise is the same age as me. He gets to fight the mummy. I am the mummy. I need you, Ollie, to help me change this show.
No more tantrums and no withering looks. Like that one.
That's my face.
It's like I'm powerful.
What exactly is wrong with my bits?
You're a little old and a little white.
What can I do about that? Let me introduce you to a new series, Catherine Newberry, White Saviour.
I feel like I could never hail a cab.
Let's see what we can do about that.
I actually didn't need to go anywhere.
That doesn't matter. This is how white saviours work. Into the cab.
I can't help it.
would you describe Molly?
Molly is
She said that I reminded her of a younger her.
me.
I mean,
Molly, over here.
So as you can see, there's a lot of humor infused here, a lot of different types of jokes that we may not have heard in other films on the same topic. But there's a lot of social commentary, too, of the times we're in right now, which definitely makes it relevant and a great film for conversation afterwards. As Emma Thompson shared on Stephen Colbert, it's still a little bit sci-fi because we do not have a female on the primetime networks for late night comedy. But you know what? We're getting there. And Mindy Kaling's writing does a very fine job of not only entertaining, but giving us an insight into a culture that we may not already know about. So anyway, Late Night, it's in theaters now, and it stars Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each Monday's podcast where I'll recommend a book, a film, or a recipe. Anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. And before I wrap up, I just want to send out some thank yous to reviewers on iTunes. This one comes from Jacqueline Raffert, and she writes, "Delightful and different. I am a new listener, and I'm thoroughly pleased with all the content. Shannon is relatable and elevating, a perfect 10. Thank you very much, Jacqueline Raffert, for tuning in, for sharing what you enjoy about the podcast. I also want to share one I received that while giving the show a 3, which is actually very generous based on what they shared. So I do want to actually let them know that I listened. I'm hearing you, and believe me, I'm trying. She states, or this person states, FP, LGF, the French. And basically, I need to work on my French pronunciation. I know. Believe me, my French is far from good, let alone perfect. But let me just say, in defense of all of us language learners out there who are trying to learn a language as an adult, keep trying. I'm still trying. I love the French culture. My lack of ability to speak it well is in no way an indication of my affection for it, because I know it's horrific at times. But I'm going to keep trying, and I hope you will too. But I do want to thank SPLGF for pointing out what I'm aware of, but at the same time still giving us 3 stars for the content. So potager, not potager. And so if you're still listening, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate your patience with me. And last but not least, this one goes out to Hazel4567. Simply put, 5 stars. It is very enlightening. So thank you very much, Hazel4567, and I hope you have a wonderful week, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And just note that in July, the episodes will all be favorites from the archives, and the next new episode will be kicking off French Week in August, the 2nd full week in August. The 4th annual French Week returns to the blog and the podcast. We have some great interviews lined up. I cannot wait. And why don't you join me while I'm in Paris, which will be next week. Follow along on Instagram, The Simply Luxurious Life. Have a wonderful last week in June, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or pick up my new book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, Making Your Everydays Extraordinary and Discovering Your Best Self. You can also pick up my first book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Guide, which is available now in paperback, ebook, and audio versions on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes, or wherever books are sold. To stay caught up on the most recent episodes of the podcast, blog posts, my new cooking show, and receive exclusive news as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart your weekend, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox each Friday to enjoy with a hot cup of tea or a morning cup of coffee. Until next Monday, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Bonne journée!